Good evening, UK Crime Book Club. I am going to ask Trevor and Emma to introduce themselves while I breathe, and then we will crack on. So thank you both for joining me for the last evening of your tour.
Pleasure.
I'm very privileged, very excited. So Trevor, go on, you go first.
Hi everyone, I'm Trevor Wood, the author of the Jimmy Mullen series, gritty crime dramas based in Newcastle's homeless community.
I'm Emma Christie, and I have written 2 psychological thrillers based in Edinburgh, specifically a wee seaside community called Portobello, where Trevor and I were yesterday hanging about on the beach. So my latest book is Find Her First, which was released the same day as Trevor's last week, and this is the last night of a 3-day world tour of North East England and Scotland. So delighted to be here.
And we've been practicing this, so I'm allowed to now say that Emma's too modest to mention the fact that The Silent Daughter was shortlisted for both the Scottish Crime Debut of the Year and the Scottish Crime Novel of the Year.
Congratulations.
And Trevor is far too modest to mention that his debut, The Man in the Street, was not just shortlisted, but the winner of 2 fantastic awards. The Crime Writers Association John Christie New Blood Dagger Award, which is just sitting over his shoulder, and the Crime Fest Specsavers Debut of the Year as well. And even better, he was shortlisted for the amazing Theakston's debut. The Theakston's Crime Book of the Year award. Got to the shortlist ahead of some of the biggest names in the industry. So well done, Trevor. Total belter.
You wouldn't believe we've been doing this all week and she still messed it up.
Now, I have to apologise. I know you told everyone it was matching haircut night. I couldn't join in, couldn't get in the hairdresser fast enough. I'll just have to keep my long hair.
We've been apart for about 8 hours now. My hair seems to be flattening out again. It's remarkable.
Yeah, mine's getting bigger. Mine's getting bigger by the minute, I think.
So how has the tour been? So tell us where you've been this week.
We started off in Newcastle, which included visits to Corbridge and Hexham, which are about 25 miles to the west of the city. We then went straight across past Newcastle and over to the east to Whitley Bay, to a bookshop over there, and then came back in the evening and did an event in Newcastle city centre. And then the next day we went off to Edinburgh, and I'll let Emma finish that off.
Yeah, so what we should mention as well is the event we did in Newcastle. We raised fantastic, like £300 at least for People's Kitchen, which is a homeless charity in Newcastle, which Trevor volunteers with. Yeah, so then we took the train to Edinburgh, and we had a day of, we signed in visited a few bookshops, Blackwell's, Waterstones, Toppings, and the Portobello Bookshop, and we did 2 events, one in the Book Nook independent bookshop in Stirling, and then the finale last night at the brilliant Noir at the Bar in Edinburgh in Rose Street. So it's just been absolutely fantastic, really. It's been just really good fun, really amazing to be out meeting readers and other writers and bookshop owners, and it's just been really fantastic.
Well, we're stacking up with hellos already. So Donna Morfitt, TG, Daniel McBreakneck, Tony Millington, Kaz Maston, somebody, Facebook user, I'm not sure who that is. I'll see if I can find the phone in a minute. Somebody said, lol, it's like the 2 Ronnies. You are quite the double act. You are.
We've been rehearsing all week, man.
Mary Chong up near Aberdeen.
Oh, brilliant.
And Andrew. Hi, Andrew. Andrew is actually in Nottingham. So Andrew Hoochin. So I think I've caught everybody. Sorry if I missed anyone.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
So tell us a little bit about Dead End Street and then Find Her First.
Okay.
So just for anyone who hasn't been lucky enough to get their hands on them yet, what are they looking,
Dead End Street is the 3rd and final book in the Jimmy Mullen trilogy, following The Man on the Street and One Way Street. And in Dead End Street, there has been a series of attacks on homeless people in the street. They're being beaten up all over the place. One of Jimmy's friends wants to try and find out what's going on, but Jimmy's reluctant because he's kind of settled down. He's actually got a kind of life coming together. But then his friend is found beaten up in an alley, covered in blood, with a baseball bat in his hand and a dead body right next to him. So he's compelled to get involved and try and find out what's going on.
Well, that'd do it, wouldn't it? That would certainly that'd draw you back in. Emma, tell us about Finder First.
Yeah, so Finder First is set in Portobello in Edinburgh, and the tagline is a missing wife, a guilty husband, but it's not what you think. And that basically is my excuse for saying I can't tell you that much about it. But what it is it's a race against time. So we have a missing woman, Steph Campbell, and we have 3 people looking for her. We have her husband, Andy. We have her cleaning lady, Betty, and we have Detective Inspector Farida McPherson, all looking for Steph. Who will find her first? You have to read it to find out.
So the next obvious question for me is, so Emma, 2 standalones, Trevor, a trilogy series. Are you going to switch? Are you going to do a standalone? Are you going to do a series? What's coming up next?
Emma keeps pretending she's not writing a series, but she's got the same cop in both books. She's got the same journalist in both books. I'm not sure what qualifies as a series anymore. She's just pretending.
I know, it's a good question. I mean, I suppose mine is not a series in that every book, including the one I'm working on at the moment, is a completely different protagonist and a different situation. But I do have all my books set in the same community, and I do have the sort of key characters in the community. Like Trevor said, the journalist and the policeman are the same. And there may be characters.
Series.
There may be characters that sneak in. So who knows? Maybe it's a kind of a half series, kind of.
I might be wrong. I'm sure there's some Sophie Hannah fans out there, but it's kind of Sophie Hannah's Culver Valley series, I think she called it, had the same cops, but there was always like a completely different main voice in it who was the kind of protagonist of the story. Right. So you're basically Sophie Hannah. That's pretty good.
It's not a bad place to be, I would say. If I'm quite happy with that definition. I'll move swiftly on to you, Trevor, before we can change that.
My next book is a standalone, so yeah, I'm working on it at the moment. It's almost the first draft's done. I'm kind of tidying it up. Got about 6 weeks to send it to my editor, so it definitely will be a standalone this time, I think.
See, and I already knew that, but I'm asking questions as though I don't know the answers. I know what the answers are going to be.
I'm not a reliable witness because I thought The Man on the Street was a standalone, so what do I know? But this is the standalone.
TG has asked, Trevor, did you spend any time on the street studying homeless for your book? So, I know the answer, so I'm going to include both of you in this. What research have you had to do to add the realism that you've got in your stories?
Well, I had to do a ton, really, because I've got a homeless veteran suffering from PTSD. I could do the veteran stuff because I was in the Navy for 16 years, so I didn't have to worry too much about that. The homeless stuff came from 2 places, really. Partially the fact that the 10% veterans, so that helped a lot. But I started volunteering, as Sam knows, at a homeless kitchen in Newcastle, the People's Kitchen, which is a brilliant charity. Over 200 volunteers, nobody gets paid at all from top to bottom. And we feed over 200 people every single day of the week, which is extraordinary, I think. So I started volunteering there, got about 3.5 years ago now. So that was very helpful. And I also connected, first of all, I read a book by a guy called Jimmy Johnson, ex-army guy with serious PTSD, who is in prison for life for murdering somebody as a result of a complete blackout. And I read his book about that and about the way he was urging servicemen to get more treatment. And since then, when you do this kind of thing, it's great, because I referenced him in the books, in the acknowledgements, and his prison visitor got in touch with me about a year later and said, Jimmy is amazed that you've read his book and are using it as a reference point. And she's been in touch quite a few times. I know he's read the book now and is very pleased with it. So that's great. Makes me feel that I mostly got it right, I think. Emma? Yeah. She didn't do any. She just makes it up as she goes along. Right?
Well, do some research.
Yeah, no, I
She went to Portobello. She'd already been there. It was like
I just sat on the beach pretty much for a few weeks. So for my first novel, The Silent Daughter, it was written from the point of view of a news journalist, a news reporter, which is what my old job was. So like Trevor, I based the sort of news reporting side with my own career as a news reporter for a daily newspaper. With this one, the central character is a paramedic, and I'm not a paramedic. I am from a family of doctors and medical people, but I'm very squeamish and would never go anywhere near a needle or any sort of surgical thing. However, I have a very good friend who is a paramedic, and so basically I bombarded her for several months with questions, and she was just unbelievably generous with her time, and would read through sections, and even down to sort of the detail of what a paramedic would or wouldn't say to a bystander or to someone who was being treated. It was absolutely brilliant, and also to give me this sort of idea of the camaraderie between people, what the mess is like, where they hang out, and what they're likely to eat on a shift, all sorts of stuff. It was really fascinating, actually, to just get that insight into paramedic life. And my next book, that one I'm working on at the moment, is from the point of view of a bus driver, a city bus driver. And I can almost exclusively reveal that I did my bus driving training about 15 years ago. I trained to be a bus driver and was very good until the day of the test, when I spectacularly failed my bus test and just spent like 50 minutes in tears going round a roundabout.
So sounds like the day I've had.
Yeah, no, it was not a good day. But so for this one, I do have the experience of driving a bus and being in a bus garage and all that kind of stuff. But I'm going to be speaking to some bus drivers and people back at the depot as well, and do a tour of the depot and things down in Portobello to get more of an insight. And I'm also just going to spend a lot of time sitting on buses looking at people. So if you see me, I'm the one in the tartan shirt taking notes and staring at you. So.
She made me get the 26 bus literally yesterday, and I believe she's claiming the bus fare as research expenses.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good way to get the money back. So yeah, I think it's really important to just get these wee details right. There's so much you can kind of use your common sense for, but I think what marks books apart is when you have these little details, and someone who reads it, who's maybe in this profession, or someone who's reading it and wants a wee insight into this profession, kind of gets a really sort of authentic picture. So it's definitely for me and for the readers, I think it's really important to get it right.
And people are incredibly helpful. It's astonishing how many people I've approached that I have no connection with at all, with ridiculous questions, and they've been very happy to spend time talking about them. I told somebody the other day I emailed the Port of Tyne Authority to find out where a body might end up if you threw it in a river at a certain point. And they gave me a really long, detailed explanation of about 5 possible places. I realised later that the person I'd emailed went to school with my wife, and I think she still suspects that I've got a plan of some kind. So now I can't do that. That's a bit annoying, actually.
Now there's a paper trail now. Not a chance. What is the most ridiculous question that either of you have had to ask somebody? And I'm trying to think of any other bus drivers that are the protagonist in a crime fiction novel. And off the top of my head, nothing's coming. I'm liking this.
Yeah, it's. I get to live all these lives that I could have lived if only I'd known how to shift a 29-seater into the right lane. But much harder than it looks. Sorry, I've forgotten the question. I'm quite good at forgetting questions.
I was asking what's the most ridiculous thing you've had to ask somebody, but if it makes you feel any better, I can barely walk in a straight line most days. I've never learned to drive because I just think I'm too ridiculous. I really do. So
I don't think I've asked too many ridiculous questions, but I don't know if people out there might even be part of this. There's a Facebook group called Trauma Fiction, and writers are always putting questions on there, and they're like so bizarre. It's like, how long would somebody live for if you chopped all their arms and legs off on their head and stuff like that? And you're just like, what are you writing? Stop doing it. That's honestly, if you want to see how weird people are, just join that Facebook group. And people answer those questions. They go, oh, well, it depends how quickly you chop their head off and stuff like that. And you're like, oh, stop it.
I did write it down, I think.
And I'm just scribble it back out again.
I've scribbled it out again. I literally have scribbled it out again. You can't see it, but I have scribbled it out again. I shouldn't look at things like that.
I don't know if I've asked. I can't think of the most ridiculous question, but one of the most surprising answers I got from my paramedic friend was so in the sort of opening scene, or the introduction to Andy Campbell, the protagonist. I talk about him switching on the siren and the ambulance and just like loving it. And she said to me immediately, she was like, yeah, no paramedics like the sound of the siren. We do everything we can to not switch it on because it drives us mad. Only the trainees like it. So I had to like add a line in saying usually it's only the trainees that like the siren, but Andy still loves it because she was just like, yeah, they'll know that you've not spoken to a paramedic if you say that we love it. So it's who knew that paramedics don't like sirens?
I live in an area with lots of sirens, and I'm with the paramedics now. You stop hearing them after a while, so maybe it gets quieter. Maybe you can tune it out better after a while. I wonder.
Who knows? Maybe.
This is going to be my 2 a.m. thought, isn't it? The thing that wakes me up. It's going to be thinking about sirens, of all things. Not the latest thing that woke me up. Steve over in California says hello. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Steve.
And we've got,
Steve won one of my books once. Cost me a bloody fortune to send it to him, I have to say.
It's worth it.
Steve, that's never happening again. I'm sorry, but Jesus.
Still hurts.
Still hurts, yeah. Still paying back the loan.
Somebody has said the 26 is the best bus.
It was nice. It was nice.
Somebody said no, X61.
Oh, I don't know if I've ever taken the X61, but the good thing, the 26 is so popular that you can buy a tea towel mug and coaster in Portobello with the 26 bus on it and the route that it follows. I have one.
I smell competition prize at some point in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the whole set that goes with it. That might have been Patsy that said that, because somebody said lol Patricia. So I don't know. They're coming up as Facebook users, so I'm really not sure. Trevor, you went for a quick run downstairs to grab something before we came.
I did, yeah.
So we might as well do it.
Okay. I get to plug my mate Rob Parker's new book, And Your Enemy's Closer. But yes, I also, thanks to Pat Forsyth.
Thanks to Pat Forsyth, who was handing them out. She gave them to me at my launch last week and also last night at the Noir at the Bar. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Pat.
And I'm going to give one to my niece. She doesn't really read crime. And she did say to me tonight, I'm staying with my brother and my wee nieces, and she said, Auntie, are you ever going to write a book that's not about crimes? And I said, well, yeah, maybe. However, I am going to give her this for her new book that she's reading. So she'll have a new bookmark. She'll be delighted.
Well, if you've only got one, I'm happy to send you another, because I have got a little stack of them that David sent me.
I've only got one because Emma stole all my others.
To give to my niece, so it's okay.
True, absolutely true.
Would either of you write something that isn't crime?
Yeah, I would, definitely. Oh, that was quite quick. I was quite quick off the mark.
Yeah, ready to go.
I've been talking to my agent and my editor about the fact that I'd quite like to write some rom-coms, and they're less enthusiastic than I am, shall we say.
I'd read that. You wrote it, I'd read it. I don't really do rom-coms anymore, but I'd have a go.
I did. I mean, I before I started writing crime thrillers, I co-wrote about a dozen plays, and most of them were comedies. So, I've got some track record. But they're going, you're the gritty crime guy. You can't do that. So I might call myself my daughter's name. If you see books by Becca Wood in the future, or Rebecca Wood, that might be me, maybe.
I like the sound of that. Does that mean she gets a cut if you take her name?
It depends who you ask. If you ask her, yes, it does. And if you ask me, no, it absolutely doesn't.
That's totally on your side. So, Emma, do you think you will write? Would you write just something for your niece?
Oh, no, I wouldn't write kids' books, I don't think. I actually have written a book for my nieces and nephews that I sort of just made myself and then printed myself. But no, I would quite like to write a historical novel. I'm a tour guide when I'm not writing, and I'm a total history nerd. I studied medieval history at university. And I
both have a bit of a fondness for the Spanish Armada, from what I remember.
Yeah, I do. I love a bit of it. I love big boats, ships, the voyages of discovery, all that kind of stuff. I just love it. And in fact, I think I maybe recommended On Wilder Seas, a book by a girl called Nikki Marmorey. She wrote this brilliant book about Francis Drake and his ship, the Golden Hind. But yeah, actually, the period I want to write about is a bit more recent. It's a sort of late 1800s. in Spain, and all about the world of textile factories. Nothing to do with crime whatsoever. Well, I don't know, because that would be the setting. There may be sort of crimey stuff. The thing that I haven't yet got is an actual character and story. I just have the backdrop, which is big, noisy factories and all the stuff that came afterwards. So who knows? I may well try and write historical at some point.
What have you learned about each other this week that you didn't know? I was trying to think how I was going to word that without it being too kind of cheesy for a start and a bit too kind of nosy.
When Emma goes to stay at somebody's house, she brings her own coffee just in case your coffee's shit.
True story.
Which actually, in this case, it actually was. And I'm a big coffee fan as well. But I know my sister-in-law won't be watching this, so this is fine. My sister-in-law's very bad at Christmas presents, and this year she literally gave me a big tin of shit coffee. And I hate waste, so I feel obliged to actually use it. So she came to stay at my house and just made her own coffee and just kind of laughed when I made coffee with the other stuff. Really.
I always carry my own coffee and my own little coffee maker and oat cakes. I never leave the house without those 3 items.
And she always drinks half to my pint. That's the other thing I learned. But she can drink more whiskey than me, I think.
Yeah, I think, I was quite surprised that Trevor did manage a couple of good whiskies, actually. And, you managed to take them like a Scot. What else did I learn about I know what I learned about Trevor, that he likes a run in the mornings. And so we went out for a morning jog in Edinburgh. We ran across the meadows, past Ian Rankin's house, and then back to the hotel. So I learned that Trevor talks quite a lot, but not when he's running 4K.
Oh no, I don't talk when I'm running.
No.
I need every inch of breath for my running. I can't be doing with talking. And I learned that, of course, that Emma very kindly let me run with her and then dropped me off back at the hotel and went back out to run a bit faster and a bit further. But
you got 20 years on you.
Yeah, exactly. I'm an old man, so I can get away with that.
I dread to think where I'd still be tying my shoes and you two would have been gone. So, yeah.
I also learned that Trevor doesn't get cold. Just doesn't. I think it's the Newcastle in him, but seriously, it's doesn't get cold. I was wearing at one point, last night, I was actually wearing 6 layers of clothes, 3 vests, a little smart jacket, and 2 winter jackets, and merino wool long johns that reached my ankles. And Trevor was like, I don't know whether I should take a jacket or not. And then proceeded to put a t-shirt and an open coat flapping in the wind. I was like, this man, it's quite incredible.
30 years of living in Newcastle.
He had to put a coat on, you letting the side down.
I carried my coat mostly. I didn't wear it very
There you go. That's fine then.
Yeah.
That is a lot of layers, 6 layers. I don't think I've ever worn that many layers in my entire life.
I also learned, the other thing I learned, and I bet she did it tonight as well, that about 5 minutes before you're about to start, she disappears and brushes her teeth.
Yeah.
I do before we go on camera.
But not just on camera. We're talking in the events and stuff like this. We're just about to start, and every time I was like, why does Emma keep disappearing 30 seconds? And I thought she went to the toilet just now. She can't have gone there again. And then I found out she was brushing her teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do that. If I'm going to be talking to anybody, teeth again. Yeah, a lot. I don't think that's weird. I'm always brushing them.
Yeah, I rinse with bib just before. It works really well.
I do that as well.
Yeah.
Trevor, Steve says it's in a place of honour. Your book is in a place of honour.
No, it bloody should be, Steve. That's 30 quid's worth of postage.
So Donna's asked, did you speak to McGarvey, Trevor?
I saw Donna's question, and it's slightly awkward for me. I had a lovely chat with Donna very recently, and I have no clue who McGarvey is, and I'm suspecting.
I was hoping you'd know.
I suspect she recommended that I speak to somebody, and now I have no clue who that is. So spell it out, Donna. Give me some detail. I can't remember. Might be about the rom-coms. I think it might be a writer who writes 2 different genres, maybe.
Yeah, I'm thinking McGarvey Black, but my mind's gone.
Oh yeah, it could be. That could be right.
Andrew says, Emma, you mentioned a historical novel. Is there a history museum in Edinburgh? You mentioned Portobello, so I guess that is quite away from Edinburgh. And in your case, Trevor, I would think that Newcastle is quite away from Jarrow.
No,
Sam would probably know from Andrew. Sam does not know Andrew.
Newcastle's very close to Jarrow, like really close to Jarrow.
Yeah, and Portobello is actually part of Edinburgh. It's known as Edinburgh's seaside community. So, but saying that, I didn't know Portobello existed until very recently. But no, it's the coast of Edinburgh is Portobello. So it's about 15-20 minutes by bus if you take the number 26 from the centre, driven by my protagonist. And there's a brilliant history museum in Edinburgh, the National Museum of Scotland, which is free, and it's just fantastic. So maybe I should go and study the buses as well. There's a transport museum as well in Glasgow. But anyway, I'm getting off.
I'm now thinking I need to add riding the 26 to my list of things to do this year. I've never actually been to Scotland, but I was supposed to go, and then I took a year off work to go and do all these things, and then that year was 2020.
Oh man, really?
So no Harrogate, no Scotland, no nothing. I did have a really nice time in a book club and spending time with my husband and the kids. So swings and roundabouts, win-win.
I see we were right. It's McGarvey Black, and it was about talking to somebody who mixes the genres up. I will one day, Donna. I will. I've been a bit busy escorting Emma around the country basically for the last week or so.
Who had to look after who more?
She's always late as well. That's the other thing I learned. So I'll see you in the reception at 8:30, and what she means is like 8:45, and
No, it was only 5 minutes. Only 5 minutes, really.
Yeah, whatever.
Trevor never carries his own Sharpie to sign books. He always has to borrow one.
I never carry anything. I never carry anything. I really don't. And I'm an annoying friend to go around with. At Harrogate, Louise Hare had to follow me around with a pen because people kept saying, "Will you sign this?" And she was like, "Louise."
You've got one of those on a string around your neck.
Honestly, she's like, "I'm not your bloody secretary. Get your own pen." I literally had to ply her with wine for the whole thing so she would follow me around with a pen. I don't like having things in my pockets. I don't know. It's a bit weird.
So a couple of weeks ago, when we were doing our top 10 of the year, I was talking to one of my friends called Pat Adams-Wright, and she then went and read The Silent Daughter, and it was the last book she read last year, and it was her book of the year.
Ooh.
Wow. Do you two have a book of the year?
Ooh.
It's not an easy question.
No, it isn't. You mean a book of 2021?
Does it have to be one that was released that year, or one that we read?
One that you read.
I've got a few, but I a bit like Pat. Very late in the year, I read Dominic Nolan's Vine Street as a kind of advanced copy, but it did come out very late in 2021, I think. And that probably edged it for me. I love. If nobody's read them, Dom Nolan's first two books, Past Life and After Dark, are probably my two favourite crime books of recent years. Great series. But then he put them to one side and wrote a standalone, kind of almost historical crime. It starts in 1930 and ends up in the present day. It's epic. It's like huge. I mean, he tricked me, asking me if I'd read an advanced copy without telling me it was 140,000 words. And when I got it, I was like, Jesus Christ. But it was worth it. It's a terrific book. It really is epic, and it's a great story, and it's quite romantic as well, unusually for a crime novel. So probably that, but I'll give a little shout out to Joe Knox's true crime story, which I really loved as well.
It's on my list. I haven't read it yet.
It's a bit like I'm going to forget the name of it. The book that was a bit like the Fleetwood Mac story, Daisy Jones and the Six. It's a bit like a crime version of Daisy Jones and the Six. It's told from like umpteen different voices telling you a story about a crime. It's great, really clever.
And my favourite reads, so hard to narrow it down, but I read, I was a wee bit late to the game, but I read The Silence by Susan Allott.
Oh yeah, that's great.
I've had it for so long and just hadn't read it, and I read it a couple of months ago and just absolutely loved it. And it was released in paperback last year. Hardback the year before. Really, really beautiful book set between Australia and England, and just such beautiful writing, sort of psychological thriller. I'm not sure exactly how you would, or literary crime. I'm not sure how you would sort of define it, but just fantastic, really captivating book. I also was lucky enough to read a few advance copies of books, and there's a brilliant book coming out in either March or April. I can't quite remember, called The Twins by Liv Matthews, and it's just I loved Liv's first book, The Prank, and the Twins for me is just like, it's just amazing to see how her writing is just totally, it's so assertive and so much more confident, and I just absolutely loved it. And it's not, I think it's out in spring at some point. Anyways, that was great. One of the bonuses of being a writer, is getting to read people's books before they come out, and that was great. I was really excited about that one. And also, I know you asked for one, but it's really hard.
I know it is. I don't expect you to stick to it.
I totally loved Rosamund Lupton's 3 Hours. It was just magnificent. I thought, I absolutely love her writing. So those would be my 3, I think, that I would say that have really stuck with me this year.
Tony Millington's saying, I was really trying not to chuckle while you were talking. I have the vision of you two in a car like the Antiques road trip. That is the most random thing, Tony.
We did drive around the northeast quite a bit, because I was just driving around to bookshops, and it was fascinating because at the same time Emma was negotiating a deal with her agent and her editor on the phone, and it was kind of it was random.
It felt a bit like Annika Rice, like kind of like except yet to be concluded. We're still going.
Yeah, I was trying to find my way to a bookshop, and she's going, "How much?"
Higher.
I want more money. Great.
I think you look too young, Emma, to be knowing who Annika Rice is.
I think no, I was definitely allowed to stay up and watch Annika Rice. And it's just, did she not wear like a blue jumpsuit or something like that? I seem to remember there was
some sort of image like that, and her backside is she ran to a helicopter. That's quite a memorable thing. That was constant.
I'm making no comment on that. So.
I can't believe I just made comment on it, but it was the first thing that I thought. So there you go.
There was a bit of a silence after you said that, but it's okay. No one noticed it.
Somebody, Facebook user, sorry, type your name at the end of your questions or comments, and I'll be able to tell everyone who you are. Sorry. Emma, Finder First was difficult to write. Are you finding it easier with book 3?
So far, yes. I think I definitely learned a lot from. Well, I've learned a lot since I started writing. I think every time I write something, I'm constantly developing. But I did suffer a lot with the writing of my second book, and I've told the story a few times this week how I did bin the first version completely. I'd written 90,000 words and just realised I'd written the wrong book, basically. And it was an unfortunate moment in my writing career. But it was horrendous to have to throw away a book and start again in some ways. But in other ways, I think I kind of had to go through that horrendous time to actually find what the story was about, because my editor said to me, like, before you bin it, is there anything at all, like one word, one phrase, one scene that you would like to save? And I thought about it for a day or so, and then I was like, yeah, there is this one scene, this one moment that I want to capture, and actually I think that is what the book is working towards, and it's actually now it's the sort of closing scenes of the book are the ones that I saved. And so even though I still had no plan, because I don't plan, I took that scene out, and the whole writing process after that was working towards that. So I think what I've learned and sort of carried forward into my third book is I don't need to plan what is actually going to happen, but I kind of need to know what I'm working towards, and I do with this one. So far, I would say it's going more smoothly. I'm only about 30,000 words in, so it's still at the very sort of good fun stage. So maybe ask me again in 30,000 words more and see where I'm at.
Donna, I'm confused. She's saying, why are you blushing then, Trevor? Now, I don't know what that's in relation to.
I think I don't know, I think she thought I was about to talk about Annika Rice's arse, but I'm not going to do that. So
no, I beat you to it, so it's fine.
Yeah, that was you.
Can't take me anywhere.
I mean, I'm prepared to have that conversation if you want, but they'd probably prefer me to talk about something else, I would think.
Yeah, shall we stick to books? I don't know.
Probably for the best, I think.
Not enough lager, obviously. More info on Bloody Scotland. This is from Andrew, I think it is. Have you both attended before COVID? And yeah, it must be Andrew. Andrew is really a big fan of Alex Gray, and Alex Gray was on Bloody Scotland on YouTube. Well, that all came out in the wrong order, but anyway.
Those words, I get like flashbacks if you mention Bloody Scotland and COVID, because I was supposed to be doing a panel with Sarah Hillary and Imran Mahmood, and I got COVID about 8 days before it, and I had to pull out, so I didn't get to go this year. But I did get to go the previous year, or the last time it was on. Emma's shaking her head now because I played for the England crime writers at an advanced age of 60 plus against the Scottish crime writers, and we won 3-0. And I was due to play again this year, and some upstart youngster was due to play for Scotland. She thinks she's quite good, apparently, but anyway, they cancelled the game because they didn't want to lose again, I think.
Yeah.
So anyway, next year.
Next year we're on, and by chance I'm a striker, and Trevor's a defender, a sweeper,
Yeah.
I think.
So it's
going to be
happening.
head to head.
It's kicking off.
I know who's going to have better hair anyway. But
and she thinks she's quicker than me, but I'm wiser. So we'll see how that goes.
And yeah, so I was there this year. I was in the debut panel on the first day, and I was up for both prizes at Bloody Scotland. So it was great. It was the best weekend. I didn't win the prizes, but I just had the most hilariously brilliant weekend. I met so many writers. It was a total joy, honestly. And the highlight, perhaps, dancing to the fun living crime writers, which is Val McDermott, Chris Brookmeyer, and Mark Billingham and Doug Johnson. They have this brilliant band, and it was just hilarious. It was just really good fun. So if you haven't been to Bloody Scotland, you don't need to be Scottish, and you do need to wear tartan at all times. But apart from that, it's a brilliant event. So I would highly recommend that any crime fans get up there, and it's a good weekend to be had.
Who's that? I'm looking at a comment, and is Johnny?
I'm trying to find who it is.
I think is it Johnny? Emma is in the crowd here because somebody said I seem to recall it was 3-0. That's what happens when I'm allowed in the Scotland defence. I think it's
any,
I think
any
so. Must be.
No,
Must be.
It is. It's Jonathan Whitelaw.
Yeah. There you go. He was in the defence. I mean, I barely noticed that they had a defence, but he was nominally in the defence.
No, getting in the middle of this one, sitting right there.
And to be fair, Bloody Scotland is a fantastic festival, and we like it so much that when we were in Stirling, we went and had a drink in the Golden Lion Hotel, purely because that's the HQ of the Bloody Scotland Festival, really.
Yeah, we did. And we ate haggis while we were there.
We did.
It was very nice. Yeah.
Never had it.
Lovely.
Definitely. We'll go to Bloody Scotland next year, and I'll get you a plate of haggis to say welcome to Scotland.
I'll hold you to that. Only if I get a decent whiskey with it.
It was in a whiskey sauce as well, so kill two birds.
Yeah.
Okay. That was Karen McKinley. Hi, Karen. Before asking,
Karen.
Was it difficult writing book 3?
Thought you were saying Karen was in the defence when they lost 3-0 for a second. I was thinking I would have remembered that. I'm pretty sure.
Next year.
Karen, get your name down.
So, other than Bloody Scotland, have you got any events planned?
Well, you go. Go on, Emma. You go.
I mean, certainly as attending, I'm not appearing. It's not guaranteed that I'll appear at any events so far, but I have a house booked in Harrogate for the Harrogate Crime Festival. I'll definitely be at Bloody Scotland. I'm hoping to go to Portobello Book Festival as well, and maybe some of the smaller ones as well around Scotland. A lot of little communities up in the Highlands and things hold 1 day or 2 day festivals, so I'd definitely like to try and attend some of those. But hopefully COVID will allow it this year, a bit more flexibility, and just sort of decide if I want to go, I can just go and don't need to plan and then cancel and then plan and then cancel. So I'm excited. Every time I've been to a book festival, and I've not been to many, to be honest. I've been to Harrogate once, Bloody Scotland once, the Edinburgh Book Festival once, and that's about it, to be honest. And it's just so inspiring. I just find these events just in so many ways, it's just I don't know. It's I always leave on a total high. It's a joy to meet other crime writers, meet readers, and just have so many people enthusiastic about the crime genre and all its different facets. It's brilliant. Totally love it.
Yeah, I've got tons. Bay Tales is the first one for anybody in the Northeast. Whitley Bay, 12th of February, all day. Fantastic writers rocking up there. Anne Cleves is coming. Vaz Khan is coming. Sarah Vaughan. There's just an endless. Louise Candlish is doing it. I think it's like 30 quid for a day, which is amazing, I think. So I'm doing that. I'm doing. Oh, on the 20, what's the date? On the 22nd of February, I'm doing something at Piccadilly Waterstones, if anybody is in London. I'm doing the Welsh Crime Festival.
I wondered what you were doing. You were getting your calendar.
Yeah, well, I've got a calendar and I've got bloody loads of things on it. Welsh Crime Festival was supposed to be real, but I think they've gone virtual. That's at the end of April. In May, I'm doing Crime Fest in Bristol. I don't know. That's enough, isn't it? I think. I hope to be at Harrogate, but who knows? I'm supposed to be I am in Canada, so it's a long way to come back. But it's such a good festival. I might do that. I'll definitely be at bloody Scotland regardless. And I'm also doing an amazing thing. I'm just looking. August. There's something called the St Hilda's Crime Weekend, which is at an Oxford college, and I've been asked to do that. So I'm doing that again with some incredible writers. So yeah, looking forward to all of those. Because we spent 2 years, we started, our books came out like in 2020 and we've had 2 years and not been able to do a damn thing. So I literally, if people ask me, I just go, yeah, and then work out how that's going to happen. Like that St Hilda's thing, I'm in Canada and I'm coming back 2 days early to get to that thing just because, really.
So I was just going to mention the D20. So
yay!
Explain to people exactly what that is. And just how helpful and supportive it's been, and all the million ways that you all cheer each other on.
Yeah, they've been amazing. So because we were all coming out in 2020, we kind of formed a group before there was such a thing as pandemics and lockdowns, because we kind of thought it's useful for new writers to just have a kind of group around them who are all in the same boat and share information really about the industry and how things work. But of course, then things changed dramatically, and we were writers without anywhere to really sell our books. All the bookshops closed. We couldn't do events. So we just started to team up and promote each other and kind of back up each other. If anybody wanted something promoting, we were all over it. We did amazing things. We got I think about 45 of us were shortlisted for the Guardian's Not the Booker Prize because we were just nominated like crazy. We started doing Zoom panels very early on, mixing it up, and we're all different genres. So there's historical writers, there's rom-com writers, there's every kind of genre you can imagine, and we just became friends basically. Just over the course of a couple of years of doing this, we meet every single Friday at 5 o'clock. Emma wasn't there today, too busy, obviously. But I
was pretending to be a spy with my 6-year-old niece. So.
But yeah, we've met up every single Friday for nearly 2 years now to chat about stuff. And when we finally, some people have met a little bit before, but quite a few of us went to Harrogate Crime Festival, and we kind of thought it might be a bit weird. But actually, it was like we were friends from 20 years ago. We just got on immediately and spent the whole weekend together, really. And Emma's got other stuff to say, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, for me, I think it was amazingly sort of. It was the first writers I knew. I've never done a writing course, and I wasn't a member of any writing groups at all. And it was my agent who said, "Why don't you connect with this other debut who she had, Louise Fine, who's a historical novelist." And through Louise, I was introduced to the D20s, and suddenly went from knowing no writers to knowing 70. And it was just amazing. And it has, just as Trevor said, this has been an amazing source of support, including, we're not debuts now, most of us, but it's ongoing because last night at Noir at the Bar, in fact,
great.
There was a sort of 15-20 minute gap that needed to be filled, and it was going to involve me just blabbing on, and I thought, yeah, and this is not great, and so honestly, Trevor and I were like, so maybe we could talk about this, and all of a sudden, like literally from behind the couch, a head appeared, sort of up here, and it was one of the D20s, Rosie Walker, and she said, "Hi guys," and I was like, "Oh," and Rosie's just released her second book a couple of weeks ago. We said, "Rosie, do you happen to have your new book with you?" She was like, "Yeah, I've got it in my bag." And I was like, "Do you want to do a reading in 10 minutes?" And she did. So she took part in this brilliant live event at a theatre in Edinburgh with no notice whatsoever. And I think that is just a great example of the kind of teamwork and community that we've created, because there was no question that she wouldn't do it. She was just like, yeah, let's, just absolutely up for it. And she did a fantastic job as well, reading from her new book, The House Fire. So yeah, it was brilliant. And and I see, I think 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, I think these bonds formed from our debuts will still be there. So
yeah, unquestionably,
really
no
fantastically important. Yeah, that would be the biggest thing I would say. Sorry, just to anyone who is starting out in writing, like finding your community is super important. Sorry,
absolutely,
Trevor.
definitely. No, it's fine. It's fine. I was just going to mention Sam was holding Fran Quinn's book, The Smallest Man, earlier, which is fantastic. And she's a historical writer. We would never have met Fran if it wasn't for the D20 thing, because the genres don't tend to mix around, but we now do. So it's great. And I've read all kinds of books that I wouldn't have read if I hadn't been part of that.
Yeah, me too. And it was actually it was one of the D20s who came up with the title for Find Her First. So not only did I really struggle to write Find Her First, and then I could not get a title for it. With no exaggeration, I submitted about 30 or 40 titles to my publisher, and they were just like, no. And so I sort of sent a message to the D20 Facebook group and said, like, I'm really struggling to come up with a title, and sort of told them what the book was about. And it was a rom-com writer, contemporary fiction writer called Gillian Harvey, who she'll send you a few. And when I saw Find Her First, I was like, this is the one. I mean, there was some brilliant ones sent through, some hilarious ones as well. But Find Her First was just right for the story. It was absolutely great, and my editor loved it, and agent loved it straight away. So I mean, in very practical terms as well, the D20s are super helpful. So it's been brilliant.
See, the title thing, well, with yours, Trevor, The Man on the Street, One Way Street, Dead End Street, is that why
you seeing a pattern? Do you see a pattern there, Sam, at all?
Say again.
You see a pattern?
So, do you think you'd run out of ideas? Is this like not starting a book with, the A to Z thing, and then,
It wasn't the original. The original title. The original titles were nothing to do with streets. It was the original title of the first book was When a Fire Starts to Burn. But my editor said it's just too big. It will fill the whole book up. And I had to go away and come up with some other ideas. But The Man on the Street was my second suggestion, and they ran with that. And after that, because of the subject matter, it seemed obvious to use the word street as a running theme, really. Yeah. But that's why I stopped as a trilogy, because I couldn't come up with any more titles, so I thought I'll just stop there. I was like, literally, book 4 was going to be Coronation Street, and I was like, not doing it.
Quality Street.
Even worse.
Absolute genius. Somebody has said the street theme is clever. Let me scroll and see if I can tell you who that. Oh, it's Leslie Lloyd. Hi, Leslie.
Thank you, Leslie, and thank you for all your support. You've been great. That was to Leslie, not to you, Sam. You've been kind of average.
No, I know. Yeah, I'm terrible, dreadful. Karen McKinley has said, I think you should mention D20 Diary Group on FB2, because that's been a godsend for people outside the group.
Yeah. So thanks, Karen. So together with the D20s, back in 2020, in August 2020, we created this online festival. I think it was going to be a one-day event to begin with, and then there was so much enthusiasm for it that we ran it every month, and we still do. So it's the Diary of a Debut Novelist is a Facebook page, which basically the first year it was just all of us from the debut group talking about all the different things we'd learned, sort of from the very moment of when we started writing, how we got an agent, how we got the publishing deal, how we deal with rejections, and to sort of open up the sort of mysteries of the publishing industry in a way, and also just to let people know that they're not alone, because I think there is, up until that point, it wasn't that easy to find out all this kind of information. And the festival has just been so brilliant. I host the sessions usually with 6 debut novelists. And it's just been brilliant. We've had such a great response. We've got sort of 800 followers. It tends to be new writers and aspiring writers who are hoping to get their first deal or starting out or whatever. But it's really, really brilliant to see the feedback. And last year I actually ran the Diary of a Debut Novelist 1 year on to see what everyone was doing a year after publication. And this year we have a few new kind of events coming up. We're going to be starting one called the Dictionary of a Debut Novelist, which is looking at all these words that, you know, when you enter publishing, there's sort of words and phrases that you've never heard before in your life that suddenly you're expected to understand. So we're going to be sort of picking those apart as well, and just sort of providing a resource for aspiring and new writers to sort of understand publishing and not feel so alone. I think that's absolutely key, is creating this community. And, you know, you're not the only one who's been rejected. You're not the only one who's taken 10 years to be published. And give a bit of hope as well, you know, because my story, I was rejected by everyone numerous times before, you know, it took me 10 years to get published. I'd been, you know, 2 books that didn't get published, wrote another book that I didn't even finish. And, you know, Trevor had quite a long road to publication as well. And I think people hearing those stories, you know, it's reassuring and quite inspiring. So it's really important, I think, to get them out there. Yeah.
Agreed. So advice for somebody starting out. So we hear about people with, you know, first novel in the bottom drawer that never saw the light of day, but book 2 did. People cutting huge chunks out when they're 30,000 words in and knowing it's not working. All these different things. So the advice would be just to keep going.
That's pretty much what we do advise, yeah, generally. I mean, we've got a few other different things, but perseverance is the biggest quality that every published writer I know has, that they just kept going. Because you will get rejected by countless people for a long period of time, unless you're incredibly lucky. There's almost nobody who gets picked up quickly. There aren't very many people who get published with their first book. Most people have whatever they call it, a practice novel, or just something that they worked on that didn't work. So that's really important. But the other thing for me is finding people to share your work with. Don't do it on your own. You don't have to be a solitary writer hiding away and just reading your own stuff. There are groups out there. Just find a local group of writers and find the writers in there that you kind of, I don't know, have something in common with, or that you trust, and show them your work. Because other people's views will make your work a lot better. I still do it now. I've got a group of 5 writers in Newcastle. We meet up every 3 weeks, read about 2,000 words of each other's work from all different genres. One of them does kind of fantasy stuff. One does short stories. It doesn't have to be the same genre, as long as they're constructive and forensic almost in the way they look at your work. It will be really useful. It will just make your work a lot better. Do that.
Yeah, it must be good getting advice from other authors, because it's not like asking, you know, your best friend.
Don't use your wife, don't use your mum, especially don't use your mum. That would be terrible. But yeah, you need a kind of neutral perspective on your work, really, from somebody who doesn't have a dog in the race, who kind of will tell you how it is, really. Yeah. But you don't want somebody who tears you apart. So it's a balance.
No.
Yeah. Definitely. No, I would agree with that. I think perseverance is the key thing I always say, but also patience. I think one thing that you've got to learn to love as a writer is waiting. You know, you send off your book to an agent or to your editor before, you know, even once you're, you know, got a publishing deal, you know, people do not get back to you right away in publishing. You know, there's often weeks between you sending something and hearing anything at all. And it's easy to think that means that you're rubbish and that people hate your book, but it's just, you know, they're busy people. You know, everyone is massively overworked, and you know, I think learning to love waiting. So patience and perseverance, I think, are 2 qualities that do a writer. You know, that are very, very important if you want to stick with writing, I think.
How well do you both cope with patience and perseverance? Are you patient? Are you good at it now? Or?
Have you noticed how old I am, Sam? I'm very patient.
I'm not old.
Well, you've got to be. What choice do you have? If you want to get published, you have no choice. If you don't if you're not that bothered, then give it up and go and do something else. But if you want to get published, you've just the system is there, and it's very hard to subvert it. You've got to just kind of keep going.
Yeah. I think
I realised. Sorry, go on.
No, I learned about perseverance by failing. You know, I failed. You know, I had 2 failed novels. I don't like calling them that, but 2 novels that weren't good enough to be published. You know, and I was literally rejected, but dozens and dozens and dozens of times. And I just was like, well, I'll just keep going and I'll try to make it better. And you know, and just that's all you can do. That's all you can do.
But also perseverance in another way. When you get to the point where you think your book is great, and you're getting rejected, don't necessarily give up on that book. You know, persevere with that book if you believe in it wholeheartedly. The Man on the Street was rejected by every single editor it was sent to in its first submission round, every single one. But my agent believed in it, and we went out again. And you know, as Emma said, it won a few prizes. They don't, you know, they don't know everything really.
Yeah, and the Silent Daughter. It's more or less the same story with The Silent Daughter, because it was in a very different form. Was my first book, and it was my agent who said, try rewriting this book. Like, I mean, literally, I think the prologue is the only thing that remained the same, but you know, the heart of the story was the same. And then in its new form, reworked 8 years later, it got picked up. So you know, there's always a place for the novel in the drawer as well, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just like that, we are almost out of time.
Whoa.
Tony's just bought The Man on the Street.
Yay. Go Tony. Thank you.
And yeah, I think we're gonna have to leave it there, but because I know, Emma, you're dashing off at 8 o'clock. So both hold your books up again. Give us have you even got yours, Trevor? Or do I need to get mine down?
And they're amazing bookmarks as well.
I do not.
I'm going to attempt. There you go. I did it without knocking it on my head. Oh, okay.
Got it.
Excellent.
It's a proof, though. It's not the right cover. Sorry.
I've got the right cover.
Yeah, that's it. That's the green one. You can see this was the first cover they sent me, which I kind of quite liked. But then they sent me the one that Sam's got, and my name was about 2 inches bigger. So I said, yeah, that'll do. That's fine.
Well, mine came from Amazon the other day. So
thank you for getting that so much.
Of course. We always say this with the book club. We always try and buy as many books as possible. Welbeck did send me Find Her First, which I'm very grateful for. But that just means that I buy somebody else a copy. So you still don't lose out on a sale.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you both so much for ending your tour of the, shall we say the UK? Shall we make it?
Yeah, UK tour.
Yeah,
we're going to get tea. Actually, somebody, one of the bookshops posted on Twitter and said we were hilarious and interesting, and we've been trying to work out which one is which, and we're going to get T-shirts once we've decided. I'm pitching for hilarious, and Emma thinks she's hilarious. So I don't know. We're going to have to get 2 hilarious.
I think so.
If we all end up at bloody Scotland at the same time, I'll wear a T-shirt that says "I'm with hilarious and interesting."
Yeah, brilliant.
You'll be able to figure out which one of you needs to stand up which hour.
I actually googled it today, Emma. I did find a T-shirt that said "interesting" on it, and I was going to buy it, but it was out of stock, so I'm afraid you're going to have to wait.
I already bought it for you, Trevor. So.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all the members and everybody who's joined in.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Some fantastic books, everyone. Thank you both so much. It's been brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Yes, Sam. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.